A lot of the safety rules we take for granted today, they weren't dreamt up in some stuffy meeting. They were written in the aftermath of absolute disaster. In this explainer, we're going to look back at some of history's worst tragedies, not just to focus on the horror, but to really understand the crucial, life-saving lessons they forced us to learn.
So that really gets to the heart of it, right? What can the worst moments in history actually teach us? It's a heavy question, for sure, but the answer is so important. Because as we're about to see, catastrophe, as awful as it is, can be this incredibly powerful spark for change, forcing us to face our own mistakes and build a safer world.
Okay, let's kick things off with a big one. Technological hubris. It's what happens when we get so confident in our own amazing creations that we become completely blind to the risks. It's that classic what could possibly go wrong moment right before everything goes wrong.
Just that one word. That's all you needed to hear. It was the reputation of the RMS Titanic. I mean, this thing was a masterpiece of its time, the biggest, most incredible ship ever built. And its big selling point? 16 watertight compartments that were supposedly foolproof. The thinking was, even if you punched a few holes in the hull, the ship would just stay afloat. Simple as that. And yet, more than 1,500 people died when it went down in 1912. Now, the iceberg was the killer blow, sure, but the real tragedy was human. The ship didn't have nearly enough lifeboats for everyone on board. And why? Because the maritime rules were completely outdated and hadn't caught up with just how massive these new ships were.
All right, now let's jump ahead in time, 73 seconds. Think about that. That's all the time it took for a symbol of American pride and ingenuity, the Space Shuttle Challenger, to turn into a national tragedy right after liftoff.
7 crew members were killed, including a schoolteacher who was about to become the first civilian in space. And the cause wasn't some random, unforeseeable glitch. It was a rubber seal, a simple O-ring that failed because of the cold weather. And here's the truly heartbreaking part. Engineers had warned explicitly that this could happen, but those warnings were ignored. But here's the thing. Out of these terrible losses, real change happened. The Titanic disaster? Bam. The International Ice Patrol was created to track icebergs, and new laws made it mandatory for ships to have enough lifeboats for every single person. After Challenger, NASA had no choice but to completely tear down and rebuild its safety culture, making sure that engineers' voices could never be silenced like that again. So, that same kind of overconfidence, it doesn't just apply to giant ships or rockets, it pops up in industry too. This is what happens when the relentless push for progress and profit leads companies to cut corners on safety, with consequences that can poison entire cities for generations. Just look at this. It's a tale of 2 absolute disasters, and they happened just 2 years apart. In Bhopal, India, a pesticide plant leaked a massive cloud of toxic gas over a sleeping city. Why? Because crucial safety systems had been turned off just to save money. Then you have Chernobyl. There, operators at a nuclear power plant disabled safety systems to run a reckless, badly planned test. In both cases, the result was a catastrophe. And this really shows you the awful long-term cost of something like Chernobyl. The initial blast and radiation killed about 50 people, mostly the heroic first responders. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The fallout, the radiation that spread across Europe, is estimated to cause at least 4,000 future deaths from cancer. It's a terrifying reminder that the price of this kind of negligence is paid for decades. Okay, so we've talked about accidents and negligence, but what happens when the loss isn't an accident at all, when it's intentional? We're shifting now to talk about how society has been forced to react and adapt as attackers find new and more devastating ways to inflict violence. Each of these moments represents a painful turning point. The Columbine shooting in 1999 completely changed the playbook for how police respond to active shooters. The 9/11 attacks in 2001, well, they didn't just revolutionize airport security, they reshaped global politics. Then, in 2017, the Las Vegas shooting, where the gunman used bump stocks to kill 58 people, led directly to those devices being banned. Each tragedy was a brutal lesson in a new kind of threat. So when you pull it all together, from arrogant engineers to negligent companies to terrorists, you see this one single sobering pattern. Disaster forces our hand. It makes us change. And a lot of our most critical safety rules are basically blueprints for a better future, drawn from the wreckage of the past. And this really breaks it down for us, right?
You can draw a straight line from the disaster to the cause to the fix. Titanic taught us to be humble about our technology and to keep our regulations up to date. Chernobyl led to a worldwide reevaluation of nuclear safety. And 9/11 created the entire modern airport security system we live with today. In every case, catastrophe led directly to correction.
Which brings us to the big question for today. For right now, with all the new challenges we're facing, new technologies, new global threats, are we actually learning these lessons proactively, or are we just doomed to wait for the next tragedy to teach us all over again? It's something that affects every single one of us, and definitely something to think about.